Tell me I'm dreaming. How many of you in the room either know about Dawson McAllister or have heard him speak before? Yeah, well, how many of you are Hope Line counselors? I thought maybe so. Okay, right there. Well, then you know about Dawson. So we're going to talk more about that, but we welcome you tonight on behalf of Crew City. That kind of sounds like a rock band, but you know Campus Crusade for Christ changed its name to Crew. And this ministry in Sioux Falls that's now Crew City was Priority Associates. So it's Crew City now. And where's Dave Larson? Come on, there's Dave back there. Raise your hand. Dave heads up the ministry in Sioux Falls. He grew up in Vermilion. He was a campus ministry guy for a long period of time. Started the campus ministries really in this region for Campus Crusade, and now he heads up this ministry. And tonight we're honored to have Dawson McAllister here. How you doing, Dawson?
Yes, sir. Son, I think it is.
Yep.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. I'm just hoping, well, first of all, anybody that would come out in this weather, and I'm from Tennessee and I'm about to die, but would come out in this weather to try to understand better the mindset of the 29 and younger crowd deserves to hear some good things and hear some things that could be life-changing. So I trust that tonight won't be simply blah, 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 but that you'll hear some things, I'll hear some things, you'll learn some things, we'll all learn some things that could absolutely transform your life. Maybe one thought, one idea. That's all you need sometimes, isn't it? So my prayer to you tonight is that you will hear that thought, think about that thought, help us with the thought. Tonight could be something really, really good. Okay.
Well, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through a series of radio clips, call-ins from teens from various radio shows that Dawson has done, and then we're going to talk about the issues that raises for teens in our society. Then when we finish up, Dawson's going to give a little bit of word about his faith and how it motivates him to help kids, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. So we'll get started. You know, we all sense in our hearts, mind, soul that our teens and young adults today face more than they've ever faced before. And we want to know how to help. You can be desperate in trying to know. And Dawson, we don't want you to depress us, but if you know Dawson, he went to Bethel College and he was called to help youth to deal with their problems. And he's been doing that for 35 years. He has probably spoken to more teens in America than perhaps any other ministry person. Millions weekly on radio, many, many hundreds of thousands in live crusades. And so what we're hearing from is someone, and you know, if you listen to Dawson, what happens? When somebody calls in with a problem, Dawson is able to speak with a clarity and a God-given authority that teens listen to. So I think you're an expert, and you tell us. I'm privileged to be on Dawson's board along with Rob Broyne, who's here tonight. Where's Rob? Right over there. And we talk about it all the time. Dawson, how bad is it for teens today? We see them go in and out of the house, go to school. What are they facing today?
Well, we could throw a lot of stats, but it's pretty simple. There's a lot of junk food for the soul in our culture, and it gets worse all the time. We see that, we know that intuitively. We say something's slipping away. What speaks to me about it is something I learned several years ago. I was talking with a very powerful counselor, psychiatrist in Nashville, and he said, Dawson, we were talking about addictions. Because addictions, anybody know somebody that's dealing with an addiction? Everybody knows somebody that's dealing with an addiction, right? And perhaps you have gone through that yourself or are going through that. But to talk about what hits it for me, he said, Dawson, what is the greatest addiction today with young teenagers and young adults? What would it be? I said, well, drugs. Nope. I said, well, people are addicted to gambling, and that's an issue. Big issue. No? That's big, but that's not the biggest addiction. Sexual addiction? Nope. A lot of that going on. Abusive behavior? That's horrible, but that's not it. I said, okay, you got me. What is it? He said, love addiction. You ever wonder why your friends get hooked up with somebody? You're going, what in the world are you thinking? Here's what happens with a love addict. There are guys who are love addicts, but there are many more who are female. Little girls, 4, 5, 6 years old. Parents are fighting. Mom and dad are really screaming, and dad walks out the back door, screams, shuts the door, and drives off. She sees the whole thing, and he never comes back. And so she asks herself this simple question: how can I prove that I am somebody with men or someone from the opposite sex, whatever it be? How can I keep that person? Because I cannot go through that feeling again of abandonment and rejection. So what happens? They'll do anything to get someone to, quotes, love them. Love addicts are everywhere. Do anything to get the illusion that they are being loved. So if you want me to size up after all these years, 45 years of working with teenagers, young adults, that would be it. In fact, let me quickly say one other thing. This guy used to do these seminars. He was really smart. He was a psychiatrist and all that stuff. He used to bring plexiglass, or, shatterproof glass, splinters, but it doesn't break, right? He'd put it on a stand, cover it with black draping, and he had a hammer. He'd take that hammer, smash that glass. And it would just splinter, but not, cut you or anything. It's just shattered through the covering. He said he'd hold up that glass. He would rub his hand over the glass. By this time, every student in the place, every teenager is going, oh my gosh. Then he would say this: the American teenager and young adult, smooth on the outside, shattered on the inside. So we have a lot of people that are shattered on the inside, and they don't know what they're going to do. But you can't always pick them out. They don't have, hi, I'm Mary and I'm shattered. Hi, I'm Bob, I'm shattered. So many of them carry their pain alone. In fact, there was a survey not too long ago, and I'll get to our clip here in a sec, but there was a survey not too long ago, and this is borne out by our own radio show after all these people I've talked to. How many of you would, if you got in real trouble, would know someone that could help you, you could turn to for help? Yeah, you guys are in pretty good shape, but the stats are 50% of you don't. No one to turn to. Or turn to somebody who's really messed up, and if the blind lead the blind, they'll both fall into the pit.
We're going to kind of go through issues that teens deal with and young adults deal with today through a series of call-ins from the show. Now, I don't know if you've listened to Dawson on the air, but he's been on hundreds of radio stations, sometimes audience in the millions each week. We like to think that it's maybe the first right-thinking advice they've ever received. He's very frank and straightforward. You know that one of the problems that teens deal with is substance abuse. So we're going to listen to two call-ins. First, we're going to listen to Bethany, who's talking about a drinking problem and what that led to. And then we're going to hear from a marijuana user who knows he's in trouble. So let's play those first two clips. Dawson, how do we, a grandparent, I'm petrified about this. What advice can you give us? How do we spot it? And if we spot it, how do we fight it? What do we do?
Well, first thing you have to do, and I try to model this on my show. Let me take a side turn just for a second. I could be a politician here. He asks a question, I answer another one. It kind of works out. What am I doing with these kids here? These young adults. I say kids, bear with me. At my age, everybody's a kid. What am I doing with these young adults and teenagers? What did I just do? I tried to answer 4 questions with what I do. First of all, God has given me a voice that penetrates to the soul and also is compassionate. I didn't dream up this voice. I didn't practice it. It is from God. Because a lot of teenagers and young adults are angry. And this. So I try to come along and talk with my voice, of course, but also right to their soul. I don't talk about what the band is, what's going on with Taylor Swift. I don't do any of that stuff. I could. What color's your underwear? I could. But I would rather get right into the soul. And my audience intuitively knows, with the help of God, I really care. Because most teenagers and young adults are asking 4 simple questions. Number 1, do you love me? Do you really, really love me? About a year and a half or so ago, I was doing my radio show, and nationwide, bunches and bunches, a big crowd, million cumulative audience. And God spoke to me. And you know what he said? Tell your audience that you love them. I'm going, God, I don't want to do that. That's cheeseball. Too Mr. Rogers-ish for me. Could you be my neighbor? But God persisted. He said, tell your audience that you love them. So in the second hour, I swallowed hard. I said, I want you to know that I love you. And that I am totally committed to you. I love you. And I'm in your corner, and I will fight for you, but that won't stop me from telling you the truth. Because telling you the truth in a loving way is showing love. Got an email from a girl the next day. Dawson, thank you for what you said when you said you love me. You're the first person that's ever said they love me. So no matter who the person is, how popular they may be, how rich or good looking, blah, 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 everybody's starving for love. That little girl that made the call there, what? She sounded 15 to 17 to me. Didn't she sound that about to you? And she's in with this idiot who's angry himself and has used her. And there she is, bleeding or whatever she's doing. Forgive my graphicness. What are you looking for? How did we get here? Alone tonight with a miscarriage on your hands. We all know, don't we? She's looking for someone to love her. Somebody? Anybody? help. I want to be loved. So I answered the question, I love you. I try to. And they're asking the question, can I trust you? Part of the problem facing teenagers and young adults is that their truster is broken. If you've gone through, and maybe you have what they've gone through, your truster would be broken too. Truster is broken. Healing doesn't take place till you put the truster back together again. And they ask another question. Are you real? Are you a real person? Four years ago, and I'll be brief, my son was in a tragic car accident. He's in a nursing home today. Drooling, paralyzed on the right side, can't talk, can't walk. Happened just right after a show. So I skipped a show because he was dying and I was freaking out and I was raw. Then I went to do my show. I don't know how I got through my show. But I told my audience what happened. I said, I'm dying. All these times that I have helped you, will you help me? I need help. Will you pray for my son? He may not make it through the night. We were bombed with responses. On Facebook, for example, one girl said, Dawson, I'm an atheist. I haven't prayed in 3 years, but I'll pray for you and your son. It went on like that, many. I still get emails, many. Because I was real. I was in trouble. And I told him I was in trouble. And I was asking for help. You want to get to a teenager, young adult? Be real too. They'll sense it. Then finally, they're asking the question, and I'll get back to your drug thing here in a second, excuse me. Does your stuff about God work? Not is it true or not true, da-da-da-da. I'm not going to argue with you. Sorry, anyone ever argues with me about God on the show. You know why? They're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're not really ready to argue. Don't want to argue. They're in trouble. Save me. Help me. Yeah, it works. And go to our Hope line and talk with someone who will love you, and you'll see that it's true. Okay, I threw you off. What do you want to ask again now?
Well, I want to hear from our next caller, Alyssa, who's looking for that authentic love also. Let's play the next clip.
Hello, Alyssa.
Hi, Dawson. How are you?
Good.
About 2.5 years ago, I started seeing someone. He's an alcoholic, and we had a child together.
Why'd you start seeing them?
I don't know. Then a couple months ago, he tried killing himself, and we were trying to work things out. And then just recently, he started seeing someone else, started cheating on me, and now he doesn't want to take responsibility of his son. He just wants to give me $200 a month and see the baby whenever he wants to.
Why would you expect an alcoholic to act like anything other than what he's acting?
I thought he would be more responsible once he had a son and want to be a good dad.
Now he's in love with himself. And the baby doesn't fit into his plans if it doesn't work. The best decision you can make now is to walk out of it.
And not have anything to do with him, just
You know, you can talk to a lawyer about the support. How much is the support a month?
he wants to agree on $200.
You need to talk with your mom, your friends, your counselor, your lawyer, and see whether the $200 a month is worth all the other emotional things you do into the relationship. Maybe yes, maybe no. You might be better off not getting the $200 a month and going on with the rest of your life without it. Brianna?
Dawson, you hit on it there. It really struck my heart. Be real.
Mhm.
Be real. Can you say anything more about that? Love is going to overcome here. And Alyssa's just looking for that love and authenticity. Tell me more about relating to kids in that sense.
Well, she's obviously what the psychiatrists say codependent and a minimizer. A lot of times codependents, they want to heal. They want to find somebody to heal. Have you ladies ever noticed, and men too, but for example, ladies, you got a friend that's dated this real bad guy. Bad for her, bad for everything. Bad. You know he's messing her around. You know he doesn't love her. You know he's using her. You know he's trouble. And you can't talk her out of leaving him. She's following her heart, and her heart's broken. So finally, he uses and abuses her so much like this girl here, or this woman, young woman. Got her pregnant, took off. Now she's alone with the baby. You want a crisis in America? Single moms and their babies. What do I have my biggest heart for any caller? Single mom and the babies. So he's gone, and you go, hallelujah. He's gone. 2 months later, she starts dating a guy just like him. What? Just like him? Are we going to go through this again? There's only so many ways you can spell the word dumb. I used to say this in my show. I quit saying it because it wasn't loving, but I used to say, what kind of stupid pill did you take? It's not a matter of stupidity. It's a matter of lack of lovidity. So why did she go back to someone like that? Almost a carbon copy. That's all she knows. She feels secure in the position she is in. She is comfortable. And then what's often happens is some good guy comes along. He's caring and loving, and he's good and kind. She sabotages a relationship with this guy. Why? It's boring. There's not enough adrenaline rush. She's confusing her adrenaline rush with love. Her adrenaline rush to survive in the relationship, the fights, the hitting, and all that. She thinks that's love. Besides, she's so messed up at home. Good women or good girls bad girls never get good guys. Because I'm so bad, I'll never be able to survive somebody who's good. And you see them roll over again and again. That's where you get a single mom with 4 different kids from 4 different men. They keep playing it over and over and over again. You say, well, how do you help someone like that? Well, you tell the truth. Sometimes you just have to wait till they hit the wall. I love you. I'm ready to help. I can't help you unless you really want help. No one has ever gotten help unless they really, really wanted help. And when you really, really, really want help, come and see me. Meanwhile, I love you, but I can't let you eat my lunch emotionally. Wear me out. I've had so many calls from single hurtful moms. They start in, right? They go in a circle. Okay? He's bad, he's cruel, he's smart, Alec, he doesn't love his son or daughter. She goes all the way around. And I say, okay, what are you going to do about it? He's bad, he's awful, Finally I say, hey, I'm convinced. But until you get a plan, we don't have a plan. You just keep getting beat up. Sometimes you have to let people just flat hit the wall. And it's only then that they're open not only to your help, but to the ultimate help that comes through Jesus Christ. Other than that, even if they wanted to change, they wouldn't do it alone. How many people do you know who are addicts that solve it on their own? Not very many. Maybe a few white knucklers, but most can't do it. So they need you side by side and connected with a power much greater than you or me. Or no pun intended, thank God a prayer. Okay,
Brianna.
what about her?
Brianna has turned to a weird thing that I don't understand called cutting to try and deal with her search for love.
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear Brianna's call.
Brianna,
I called for advice because I myself am a cutter. I've been dealing with it for a couple of years now, maybe even two. I get really depressed, so I don't know when to stop. It's just a habit I have, I guess, and it remains the pain. And I thought if I could get any good advice worth listening to, I thought I would call you.
yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know whether I can help you or not, but I'll say this, you have more than a habit, you have a secret. You know what I mean when I say that?
Not
You
really.
spend half of your time cutting yourself and the other half covering your tracks. You know, not enough people know about your problem. It's not coming out in the open where we can find some light so we can get some answers and some accountability. As long as you have a secret, the secret will have you. Or as psychiatrists like to say, you're only as sick as your secrets. So calling me is a great first start. Now find some people that you trust and tell them what you just told me. And you're on your way to getting well.
You have a secret, but the secret has you. And the famous line, you're only as sick as your secrets. Or as we like to say on the show, bring it to the light, it'll be all right. Can you imagine the courage and the guts it takes for somebody to call me like this girl, this cutter? She has buried what she has done. She's covering her tracks, and it's not working for her. Well, why would she begin to cut herself? Why would she even begin to cut herself to begin with? We didn't start dealing with this cutting business maybe 15 years ago, but really heavy the last 10 years. How does a cutter get to be a cutter? I mean, think about it. You got to cut yourself. It's got to be painful, and you're leaving scars. I talked with a 13-year-old girl once who cut herself so often that the whole inside of her arm was nothing but scars. So in the summer when she went swimming or when you never saw her arms that weren't covered. That's how scarred up she was. And I asked her a simple question. How are you going to explain this to you? Now, it sounds a little shaming, but how are you going to explain this to your children? Mommy, where did you get all those scars? Most cutters, almost all cutters. By the way, do you know anybody that's a cutter? Or are we just talking nothing? We're not talking about nothing here, are we? A lot of people, maybe you're struggling with it. Bring it to the light. It'll be all right. The other problem is they come from a family that says three things, the three rules of a dysfunctional family. Don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel. Shut up and don't tell anybody outside of the family the hell that's going on inside this family. That's right. You got nothing to say. Don't talk. Don't trust. Don't feel. And so someone like this girl tries to make herself invisible. But she has a problem, and that she can't get it out. Her hurt, she can't get it out. Why? She's been trained, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. Her anger, she can't get it out. Sweetest, some of these cutters that I know are the sweetest little mousy girls I've ever met. They're just, you would think, till you get to know them and find out how angry they are and how they're vandalizing themselves. She's got to out it, out. What happens if she doesn't? What's she do with that tension that's growing inside, that fear, that hurt, that anger? That terror, that abandonment, what's she going to do with it? So what does she do? She does something that's pretty much unthinkable for many of you. She takes right from her little toolbox, a razor blade, what other tools she has. That's part of the problem. I digress, but that's part of the problem too. She's right near her toolbox. Her toolbox is near her. It's right here. She starts slashing. What happens when she starts slashing? Well, it hurts. And endorphins kick in, make her feel serene, covering over the shock and the pain of being cut. They say this endorphin that kicks in, these chemicals that kick in your body for a cutter lasts about 90 minutes. False feel good, right? 90 minutes. Then what happens? She stops cutting for a while and then it starts in again. Tick, 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 tick. Now we're also feeling bad about the fact that we're cutting ourselves. Tick, 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 tick. Cut, cut, cut. Feels so great. Tick, 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 tick. Not feeling so good. Tick, 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 tick. Along comes a trigger. Somebody makes fun of her. Trigger kicks in. They're tough now, these cutters. I don't want to be negative because God can do anything, but these cutters can be tough now. Even though they look just as gentle and nice as can be, they're angry. And they don't know how to get out of their box. And who's going to get them out of their box? Somebody bigger than you and me. Let's start there. The older I get, the less impressed I get with myself. We've come to this conclusion, unless God helps you with your problems, most of us, or most of the people you know, their problems are so great that unless God heals them, there is no hope. Did you hear me? There is no hope. A cutter. Again, anybody know a cutter or a burner? Raise your eyes. Just look around now.
Oh, wow.
I'd say it's 80%, 90% right here. In a moment, we're going to do some questions and answers, and you can ask me. We can talk together about some of this, okay? How you doing? You doing all right? Say something, do something, be something. Are you here? I don't want to get you. Yeah, good. I don't want to get you all depressed. He was heavy. Walked out there with about 800 pounds on my shoulders.
You know, Dawson, you hit me with an arrow there. I grew up in a house where you don't talk about it. And when you talk about it, it brings back all those feelings. And that's the next caller that we're going to listen to right now is in a family that doesn't want to talk about it.
What's going on in your world?
I was sexually molested by this guy I had just met, and I had pressed charges against him, and last court day is coming up in about 2 weeks, and my mom thinks that I should drop the charges, that what I'm doing is wrong, and that I'm ruining his future and everything. And it's like she's more worried about this guy she's never met than her own daughter. And I'm getting to the point where I want to drop the charges.
Well, as they say on political talk shows, when one person, the Democrat, wants to trash the Republican, they always start with these words, with all due respect, and then they blast away. With all due respect to your mother, she is flat out, W-R-O-N-G. If this guy is not stopped, he will keep on doing what he's doing.
And that's what I keep telling myself, but it's like, I mean, it turned into this huge argument between me and my mom, and it's like, I can't, really, just,
Your mom wants to avoid embarrassment of the family. But you need justice, you need closure, you need to be able to look this guy straight in the eye and say, this is the way it is. And you are showing a tremendous amount of courage.
Abuse, sexual abuse. 2 out of 5, I'm saying as high as 2 out of 5 girls, women, 1 out of 5 guys. You do not solve issues of sexual or physical abuse with a hayride. We found now that it changes the whole chemistry of the brain to the negative, to the depressive. Have you been following this Bill Cosby episode on the news? You know who Bill Cosby is. 40 years later, these women are coming back out again, some who've never told their story before and said Bill Cosby raped him. I think it's like 17 women. 40 years ago. And some of them are still carrying the pain. Huge crisis in America. Then, you know, there's these guys, and I'm not anti-guy, I'm a guy. The porn gets harder and harder, dirtier and dirtier, more brutal than ever. So guys are asking more from their girlfriends, like rough sex, hitting, biting, kicking, that they saw in the movies, in the videos. These guys, 1 out of every 4 girls in high school sends a sex picture. What we call that sex. Help me out. What is it? Sexting. Thank you. I lost it for a second. How in the world 1 out of 4 girls sexting? What? She wants to keep her guy, and her guy knows how to keep her and use her. Well, he flashes the pictures to his buddies, and perhaps they'll come up 30 years from now, somewhere on the internet. Wow. These are, I don't want to overheavy you, but I want you to know we're up to it. We're up against it. Can we win? Yes. Not without God. So what did you ask me again?
Well, I'll tell you what, our next caller, Tara, is dealing with exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So let's listen to her.
Hi, Tara. What's going on?
My boyfriend is being like really aggressive with me. Like he won't like hurt me, but like he'll push me against the wall and stuff. And he spews like a pot a lot. And like at times he'll be the best boyfriend ever, but at other times he'll be so mean to me. I don't know if I should blame him or not. Like I want to try to help him, but I don't know if I can. He gets just like so aggressive.
Well, I don't know. You like pain?
No.
Well, you're fixing to have a whole lot more pain than you ever imagined.
But like at times he'll be the best boyfriend ever, and then
I'm not worried about those times. I'm worried about all the other times.
I feel like I can help him, but I don't know.
No, you can't. You like pain?
No.
You like crying yourself to sleep?
No.
You like having a split lip? Stay with them, and most of those things will happen to you.
But I want to help him, but I don't.
You can't help him. Can't help him. Till he hits rock bottom and goes for real serious help. And that won't be you. That'll be a professional counselor.
What if I give him some time and then like go back?
There is no but what if with this guy. There's no yeah but with this guy.
So I should leave him?
Is the Pope Catholic?
Yeah.
It's your answer.
Dawson, that sounds hard. You can't help him. You've dealt with thousands going through this. Expand on that, would you?
Now, she's in trouble. First of all, she's minimizing, is she not? He didn't really hit me. He pushed me a little bit. Yeah, well, he almost choked me to death, but it wasn't bad. He only has done it once or twice. I said, well, how many times do you think you are going to die? Probably only once. Minimizing is a classic. Remember one time I was talking with a junior professional bull rider, young kid, 17, and I was down in Texas, and somebody introduced him to me. He was a star down there, a young kid riding the bulls. I said, tell me, have you ever been hurt? Broke my arm, broke my leg, cracked 3 ribs, had a concussion, broke my hand, but I ain't really never been hurt. That's what happens when they start talking about the relationships. I've heard some horrible things. Now, when I really, if you talk about being straight up, I get straight up when the woman's not protecting her children. The guy's in there beating the fire out of her and abusing her and yelling at her, and she is not protecting her kids. For the goodness of your kids, get out of there. Run as fast. Sometimes I'll ask the question, how fast can you run? One girl said, well, I can do a pretty good 100-yard distance. I said, well, I don't mean literally run, but go the opposite way he is and keep on going. How fast then can you run? A lot of times I'll also ask, and we'll see this in a second, the suicide, but what's your plan? Everybody that calls me, most people who call me who are in a mess don't have a plan. So I'll say sometimes, well, there's your plan. Your plan's not working, or you wouldn't have called me. There's my plan. But I'm so confused, I don't have a plan either. It's so painful. Your plan, my plan, and God's plan. I think we better get down to God's plan. Minimizing, hurting. It's getting worse.
Some kids get so desperate, they want to take their own life. We've been hit with that in our own community. We're not immune to what's going on in our nation and what kids face. And we're going to listen to one who called Dawson, and then we're going to talk about suicide. Can you play the clip?
You're on the air with Dawson. How can I help you?
I'm having suicidal thoughts.
Really?
Yeah.
When you think about suicide, what do you think?
The world hates me. People are out to get me. I just want to kill myself.
What's your plan?
I thought about hanging myself a couple times.
Have you thought about your plan in detail?
Not really.
That's good news. I always ask people that when they say they're suicidal, and I believe you. I believe that you're thinking about it. I'm taking what you say very seriously, not blowing it off in any way, shape, or form. Somebody who's really, really ready to kill themselves is thinking about the plan all the time. You're not.
No.
And that's good news.
Yeah.
So if we could deal with whatever it is that's causing your life to be so negative, then suicide would no longer even be an issue with you.
Yeah.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, you are.
All right, so what is it that's bothering you?
Just that everyone argues with me. They think I'm always wrong. They crap about me like stupid. I don't know how to do anything right.
Who are the people that are telling you that?
Some old friends and my brother
And you believe that?
sometimes.
That's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're hanging out with the wrong people, and you're believing what they say about you.
Yeah.
I don't think you're stupid. I mean, we just had a fairly deep conversation about suicide. You tracked with me all the way through. I don't see stupid here at all. I think you've gotten yourself into some pretty circular, stinky thinking.
Yeah.
I'm a loser. Everybody's talking about me. I've heard the word everybody several times, which tells me that's an overstatement. Not everybody's thinking poorly of you. Not everybody thinks you're stupid. But you've gotten into that thinking, that circular thinking. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to stay away from the kind of relationships where there's abuse taking place. We're going to say to your brother, listen, when you talk to me like that, all you do is spin me into depression. Talk with your parents about it so that that kind of viciousness can stop. And then just say to your parents, look, I'm struggling with depression. I need some help. I need some counseling, some therapy, something. And then we begin to feel better about ourselves and the thoughts of suicide go away. I'm going to send you to a Hope Line staff person right now where you can talk more about the wrong kind of thinking you're having and the right kind of thinking you need to have to get your emotional strength back. Brittany.
Okay, that was that one, and I want to thank our audio director for being so Johnny on the spot tonight. Let's see the hands of those Hope Line counselors again. I want to tell you that the Hope Line, which if you're on the Dawson show or you call in, you're going to get connected. You're going to call Hope Line and endeavor to find some hope. I want to tell you that over the last 3 years, these volunteers of the Hope Line who take the calls have rescued over 10,000 kids on the edge of taking their life. And yes, they deserve the applause. If you want to be a Hope Line counselor, if you want to do something that's meaningful, volunteer. Tim, where are you? There's Tim Altman. Stand up. After the thing tonight, you say, Tim, how can I be a Hope Line counselor? One of the Hope Line centers is in a phone center that I own. And we figured it out one day that in that little corner, 75 lives have been saved. Dawson, we don't know how to deal with this suicide stuff. What do we look for? What do you say to parents? I mean, is it just going to come up and surprise us someday, or are there signs? What do we look for?
Don't ever blow it off. Don't ever say to somebody, you know, I think you're just looking for attention. I don't believe you. Never bait somebody that even mildly says they're suicidal. At the same time, don't be afraid to talk about it. You may not have what you think are answers, but the very fact that you are there listening, helping it come to the light, is a major, major help. Then we say on our show, listen and point. Somebody's suicidal. And by the way, if you have a friend that's suicidal and you didn't happen to call them that night or the day before, whatever, don't ever blame yourself. You didn't do it. They did it themselves. So what do? You listen and listen and listen and then tell them the truth. I love you. And I can tell you this about suicide. Too much medicine for the sickness. An eternal solution for a temporary problem, etc. And whatever you're into isn't a good enough reason for you to kill yourself. There's never a good enough reason for you to kill yourself. They don't want to die, they just don't want to keep on living the way they're living. And that's when you can send them to the Hope Line or to your youth minister or to a counselor. You don't have to be a psychiatrist to help somebody who's suicidal. But here's the deal with that. We are so convinced, after all these years, 45,000 calls later, you with me? We are convinced that it'll take teenagers and young adults to reach teenagers and young adults. There's not enough people to go around in adults that can do all the work that needs to be done. Remember, 50% of all people under 29 have no place to go. And they're alone. There'll be plenty of room for you to help. Pray, listen, and point. Tell them about our Hope Line.
You remember the movie, What About Bob?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
In that movie, he needs help from the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist says, I need. You know what I need from you? Tell me about how to be real, how to love. Where does it come from? How do I appropriate it?
Well, we're all wounded healers, right? Is that not true? We are all wounded healers. And hurt people hurt people. How do you reach out to someone like that? You can't give away what you don't have. And many people are drinking out of an empty cup. I remember one time we were talking on the show, a prostitute called in. I said, you know, I was gracious with her and kind with her. I said, why do you do what you do? She said, well, it's easy money. And for those few brief moments, I feel I am alive. she is so dead on the inside that a few minutes with a man who's using her like a piece of furniture makes her think she is alive. Little do she understand that with each trick, she gets tricked, and she's dying on the inside. If it wasn't for Jesus Christ, if it wasn't for the Hope Line, I'd have quit a long time ago. It would get too overwhelming. Briefly, I'll tell you how we got into the Hope Line, and then we'll move from there. Briefly. I'll tell you how I got into radio, but I got into it. Sunday nights, Christian stations. And for the first couple of months, we took calls. I was scared to death. Kids started calling me off the show. The problem was two things. They were asking for $50 questions, and I was giving $5 answers. I had to grow in a hurry. Something else I realized, though, is I didn't want to just stir up an issue with them and send them out to nothing. What capped it for me is one time a girl called me. We were only on the show maybe 2 months. This girl called me. She was hysterical. Now, we didn't have any 10-second delay. God help us all. She was hysterical. Finally, I got her calm. This is live radio now, no delays. I got her calmed down. I said, "What's your problem? Why are you crying like this? Can I help you? How can I help you? What do you want me to do for you?" Well, she said, "I came home tonight, and there was some woman in my mother's shower, or in my shower, and off my bedroom. I didn't know who she was. So I went to my mother and I said, 'Mom, who is that woman?' And her mom said, 'Well, I guess it's time for me to tell you I'm a lesbian and she's my lover.' And she took off again, wailing. Finally, I was able to calm her down. I'll never forget this as long as I live. It was a turning aha moment in my life. I said to her, "This is after 20 minutes. You're supposed to turn a call every 3. 20 minutes, which is an eternity on talk radio. I said, "I hate to send you out into the night like this." She went, and I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I said to myself, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to uncover all these problems and then send them out into the night. That's when we soon after that got the Hope Line going. 1 million calls ago. So unless we all work together, we get our own act together, we work on our own act, but don't wait till you're perfect to try to help somebody. We're all wounded healers. Working together, we can reach out, learn, grow, learn how to talk to somebody. Listening's 90% of it. I love you. You can trust me. I'm real. Yeah, and my stuff with Jesus works. Say something, do something, be something. It's okay. Hello? It's just us. Pretty heavy stuff, huh? Walked across the Yukon to get all this heavy stuff. Huh? Anybody have a question?
Dawson, I've got one.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to let you off the hook yet, okay?
Okay.
You're telling me that if I'm going to help the teens and young adults in my life to stand against the tide of the culture and to overcome all the things they face, I have to love and be real.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've watched you, the source of that love and reality is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
How can I appropriate his love into my life?
Well, first of all, you got to believe that God's there. He's not on vacation. God's not dead. He's not even sick. But there is a real God, and He's a personal God and a loving God. You have to start with the spiritual realm. I mean, I hate it for anybody to commit suicide, but I can understand it. If all you got's yourself, I can understand it. So you start by saying to yourself, there is a God, and stop the presses. He loves me. No matter what I do or fail to do, He loves me. But He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to prove His love and to prove that I can have peace with God by dying on the cross for my rebellion. All of us have been our own worst helpers because we are in a state of rebellion. All of us born that. We're born rebels. Born rebels. God, I'm a born rebel. I've done all these things against you and against others, but most of all against you. And I can't help myself, and I've told myself I could help myself. Here I am, pathetic. I cannot help myself. Please help me. God says in His Word, go ahead and trust this Jesus Christ who died on the cross and rose again on your behalf. He is alive. And ask Him to come into your life to help you and to change you and to put His love deep within you and begin to heal you. That's what you do. It's not rocket science. If you're here tonight because God brought you, and even though you weren't sure what you're getting, here we are, you and me, talking about these things. Have you ever really, truly asked Christ to come into your life and to heal you? Have you ever really come to the place where you say, God, I give up to your love? Yes, you love me. Yes, I can trust you. Yes, and it works. And it's real. And I want something real. There's a song written many years ago, a Christian song, the lines of which went, you have saved me, you have saved me, you have saved me from myself. Our worst enemy is ourself. The heart's deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? But Jesus says, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. I will give you rest. But you got to ask. Got to ask. You want to pray?
Sure.
Okay, let's pray. I don't know what you thought you were getting here tonight, but you know what I think? I think you got just what God wanted you to get. To be candid with you, not about me, but I was real nervous about tonight. Sometimes I'm not nervous at all, but I was nervous and concerned. I couldn't do the job. But it's not about me anyway, it's the Lord. But the Lord brought you here. You're dying. You're just dying inside. You know why? Because you are dying inside. That's why you feel like you're dying, because you are. And it gets old arm wrestling with God. That's a no-win deal. It doesn't work to spit at God. You just stand there and say, I love you. When are you going to quit spitting? Why don't you make peace with God? There's a book years ago, I love the title, I'm Not Mad at God, and He's not mad at me. He's not mad at you. He loves you. He's just, and there are consequences now. We know that. We know there's consequences. But He wants to help us. Here's what we're going to do, and I'm not here to embarrass you. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to prepare you. If you have never prayed that prayer before, simple prayer, God, I need you. I realize Christ has died on the cross for me. I realize that he is risen and on my behalf. I realize on the cross he's taken away all of my sin and rebellion and all my junk. And I realize he's alive and wants me to come into, you, God, to come into my life. And I want that. You know why you want that? Because your mama didn't raise no fool. That's why. To reject that would be to take an eternal dumb pill. No. What you feel deep in your heart tonight is not what you ate. That's heartburn. What you feel in your heart is the Holy Spirit talking to you. And God, he may whisper, but he makes it clear. God never stutters. He makes it perfectly clear. So if you are like that tonight, and I'm not going to embarrass you, trust me, but I want to encourage you to pray that prayer. This is what I'm going to do. This will be the greatest night of your life if you choose it to be. Nothing is greater than having Christ come into your life and begin to get your life set free. Repeat after me quietly. You don't have to say it out loud. That'd be full weird. But quietly. Ready? Let's close our eyes. Now I'm going to help some people that are making the most important decision of their life. Or perhaps you are a Christian, but you wandered, sister. You have wandered from God. You're the prodigal daughter now. Come home, sister. Ain't working. Go on back, son. Ain't working. It's not working. You continue to screw your life up because you're your own worst enemy. It's not working. You need another plan. Not mine, not yours, but God's. Pray with me. Dear God, I need you. I realize that I have really rebelled against you, and I'm messed up. You know it, and I know it. And I've come to understand, just ever so little, but I've come to understand that Christ came to die for me and to rise again. And right now, please, Jesus, come into my life and change me and make me the kind of person you want me to be. Are you sincere? I believe you are. Doesn't matter what I believe anyway. What does God believe? If you did make that prayer, we're going to pass out some cards. And it's a comment card where we get a lot of different things on there to know more about you, but to help you, or get you to help us. But take a look at that card and fill it out. And if you did make that decision tonight, or if you're interested in talking with somebody else about the decision, please let us know. God brought us here for you.
Dave and Shirley Larson have dedicated their lives to helping us weave our way through a decision that changes our lives. So if you do, if you have made some kind of commitment, understanding, just let them know. All you got to do is just put an X on there. If you want to consider the Hope Line, write Hope Line. We thank you for coming. And we're going to say now that if you want to go, you can be dismissed without being embarrassed that you're walking out. But for a while, Dawson is going to take questions from the audience.
Yeah, let's take about a 3-minute break. And if you'd like to go and question and answer, some of you need to go. You won't offend me one bit. Not one bit.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Dave says he's going to pass around a bucket. And this is Shirley. And this is Dave, right? And they're full-time missionaries in helping people like us to make our lives regenerate. So, anybody want to ask a question? I got a microphone and I'll come around.
While we're doing that, fill out the goodies there on that card. Simple. If you're interested in the Hope Line, say so. If you give your life
Yes,
to Christ,
sir.
say so.
Here's your first question.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Dawson, thank
Yo.
you for being here tonight. How do you get through to somebody that you feel like you've tried
Pardon me?
7 times, 70 times to get through to somebody and can't? How do you get through to somebody that you've tried and tried and tried and can't? To your own child.
Yeah. Is it your child, you say your son is rebellious? Is that what you're saying? You tried to get through to him? Daughter, is she still living? And how old is she? How old? 18. Well, as they like to say in black churches, church ain't over till the choir sings. I had a son like your daughter. And he was wild, adopted and wild. He wanted to do right, but his buddy Jim Bean, Jack Daniels, marijuana. I worked with him and cried with him and prayed with him. And finally, I started meeting with a friend, and for 2 years we prayed for my son. Here's what we prayed. God, whatever it takes to bring him to you, just don't kill him, but do it. And one Friday night, drunk as a skunk with 2 of his friends, he pulled out in front of an 18-wheeler full of gasoline. Threw him 50 feet from his car, right out the back window of the SUV. They didn't give him much of a chance to live, but he did. But I want to tell you something. He gave his life to Christ. I helped him do it at one of the most meaningful times in my life. He's in a nursing home tonight, as I said earlier. But he's not in rebellion. God's using his life all baby dolled up, changing people's lives. So I have to ask, I prayed that, and I have to accept the answer is from God. Keep it up. Just keep telling her that you love her. Don't let her use you. Keep telling her that you love her. Don't enable her. Let her hit the wall. She has to hit the wall. God, whatever it takes to bring her to you, do it. Because she could be far, far from you. But she's not far, far from God. Because God's everywhere. He'll follow her right down the alley. What's her name? Lord, we pray for Elizabeth right now. I don't know where she is, but I can look into her dad's eyes, and I can see that she's broken his heart. And if his heart's broken, what is yours, Lord? We pray that you would, in your mighty wisdom. We surrender whatever it takes, Lord, to bring her to you. And we'll be waiting, knowing the battle is not over by any stretch. In Christ's name, amen.
Anybody else? Question?
Yes,
Right
ma'am,
there.
right there in the red sweater. Just take a couple more and then we'll hang it up.
Yep.
How are you?
I'll give this to you.
Pretty hair.
This might sound like a primary question. But why are the young children so angry? It seems like they've had everything handed to them on a platter, and it seems like they've been daddled, and they have all the money, They have all the friends they need. That's my perspective. But why are they so angry?
As the old song goes, they have everything they want but empty souls. Right? Somebody's hurt them. You show somebody who's a fighter, for example, a gang member. When I start talking with a gang member, or I start talking about, you could kill yourself, blah, blah, whatever, I say, who hasn't forgiven you? And until you forgive, you can't really live. So it doesn't matter how much money, how much toys, if you haven't forgiven, you ain't living. In fact, the toys sometimes and all the money just makes it worse. The parents think they're buying them off. Really, they're just making them more angry. They hate the money because they didn't earn it and they don't deserve it. Period. Way in the back. There's two back, way back there. Craig?
Okay.
We'll make this. I'm going to make this our last question here.
No. I'm going.
Trying to get out of this. He won't let me.
Where was it? Right here?
There they are.
Okay.
Right there.
Yep. Let everybody hear your question.
Thanks for coming, Dawson. I mentor a lot of young men around 18 to 35, and it's like we see so often young men with addiction to adult film. And we talk about it, and they, like you say, we earn trust, and then they admit it and come out open with it. And then it's like, how do you approach that? We have groups they can go to and stuff, but like, if it keeps continuously happening, what would your approach be with that?
Well,
kind of
failure is part of the healing process. What we don't want to do is so demonize it, although it's ugly, that we drive them underground. We don't want to shame anybody to drive them underground. We want to tell them the truth, not drive them underground. And just say, get up and go again. Get someone to walk with you. So every time you get tempted, you're about to pull the trigger, call someone to help you. And this may take 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times, but after a while, it takes the sting out of it. But as long as you keep it in the dark, it'll grow. Ugly things grow in the dark. Bring it out. You'll be shocked at how many people will accept you or him or whoever it is, and will want to help them if they want help.
2 more, Dawson.
Okay, 2 more.
Yours? All right. Well, then we have 1 more. Pardon me. Whoa. Well, you're in the dark.
Bring it to the light, sister.
I can't see you.
She's hiding back there.
Well, I just wanted to say, and I shared this Sunday night when, I can't remember, the volunteer coordinator, I'm sorry, my brain isn't working. I forgot his name. The volunteer coordinator was at the Hope Line Sunday night.
Okay.
And I shared this with the people that were there, but there seems to be more of an openness in our schools here in our community to talk about God. And I just wanted to share that encouragement with everyone, because I was at Lincoln High School, won the state championship here recently. Mm-hmm. And they had an event this past Sunday where, just to share in the celebration, and several of the leaders, the school board members, the principal of the school, several people gave glory to God. And 2 of the players from the Lincoln High School football team shared about their faith in God. So we're just really encouraged by what we're seeing. There's a lot of darkness out there, but there's a lot of Christian influence going on as well. And I just wanted to encourage everybody with that. And I think you and the other the ministers that we have in town have done. It's just been amazing to see God work. So thank you.
No question in my mind that God is doing something in the Sioux Empire. It's amazing. We do Facebook on our show, right? Facebook, leave me, talk to me, or whatever we do. We have 51,000 likes, or almost 52,000 likes, and we have a lot of liking going on. And we do a lot of, well, at any rate, do you know we're on, I want to say 61 stations now, some of them big stations like Minneapolis, Portland. Do you know the biggest response on our Facebook page, our Hope Line, comes from? The Sioux Empire. Go figure that out. Some of them are really messed up. But hey, God's at work here, doing stuff.
Got one more question, Dawson?
Thank you for coming. You've talked a lot about suicide prevention and signs. My nephew is on his 3rd week of fighting for his life after hanging himself. He's made a huge turnaround. We didn't know if he was going to survive, and now, by God's grace and prayers, we're hoping that he's going to be out by Christmas. But I guess my question to you was, you've talked about suicide prevention, but what about people who have attempted suicide and it was failed? What is your insight on that? Are they mad that it didn't happen, or are they happy that now I have a purpose? Or what's your take on a failed suicide attempt?
He's been hospitalized. He has, and he actually did the act, but somehow his life was saved. Is that correct? You know a lot of people who pray.
I started a Facebook page asking for prayers, and it has almost 10,000 likes, but each post that because I'm the admin, each post that we put up there has almost 200,000 views. So we have our whole community behind us, but also just people from all over.
For your brother.
My nephew. Mm-hmm.
Nephew?
Yeah, it's my nephew.
Well, I'm glad he has an aunt like you.
This is his parents.
Oh, there you
We're
are.
all
You guys
here.
have really suffered, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that flippantly. Takes a lot of humility from the parents to say, please help, my son hung himself, almost died. And there are a lot of parents who won't.
Right.
They carry all this stuff alone. Fact of the matter is, just about every family has somebody in it that's screwed up. If you really want to know. And yet again, they keep it in the dark. And you guys, I've never heard of something like this. Go on Facebook and get all of these. He's going to be all right. He's going to know a lot of people love him. And he could turn around and have a tremendous story. If you hadn't reached out and got myriads of people praying for him, who knows? Prayer turned it around. And your humility and heart for a son that's broken yours, don't you think God's touched? God didn't get him off the rope for nothing. Smile. It's okay. You're thinking, aren't you? Yeah, I'm thinking, when's he going to stop? That's what I'm thinking. Let me pray for you, and then you want to say anything else, bro?
They're going to have the blue buckets on your way out. If you made a commitment to Jesus, or like me, realized your folly, make an X on the card, drop it in the blue bucket. Thank you. I think it was a worthwhile 90 minutes, Dawson. I want to say thank you for getting on an airplane, flying here, and doing it. Thank you.
Well, I just want you to know I didn't do it for you. I wanted to feel like what it was like to be really, really cold. It's kind of a masochistic thing, you know?
Yeah, right.
God bless you guys. Thanks for coming. Put your deal in the box there. They're all looking at me. You can get up if you'd like. Oh, I was going to pray.
Right.
Jeez. Got a little senior moment there. Hey, don't say not your first. Show a little love around here. Turn 40 and everybody makes fun of me. You know what I mean? Not easy turning 40. I'm around 40, around about twice. Okay, let's pray. Lord, thank you for tonight. Thank you that you answered our prayers. We asked you to help us go into thought and looking for just something from you. And Lord, we're convinced, I'm convinced, many of us found it. For what you want to say with us tonight, we praise you. In Christ's name, amen. All right, now it's over, right?
Now it's over.
You're dismissed. All right. Thank you. Thank you.